Yeah! Card Tricks UK offers the ultimate VIP package for wrestling card collectors, For just $19.99 per month, you get 40 pounds of whatnot discount codes, entry to a monthly giveaway with epic prizes, entry to an exclusive VIP-only free break, and free grading from MGC, and so much more, dig it? Message the team on Instagram for more details. Ooh, yeah!
And now, presenting from across the pond, it's the Squared Circle Relics Podcast.
So welcome along then to the second edition of the Squared Circle Relics Broken Skull sessions, as we call them here. Now, last time we spoke to a great guy all about things going on down at Tops, and we thought we'd move into something slightly different in the world of collecting. And I've got a great guest on the session round. So now joined by Daniel B. He is the owner of WWE DVD Network, the website, and now also runs the WWE Home Video Facebook feed as well. Now things obviously move down to more of a tribute as opposed to what's coming out now. So we're going to be spending some time talking all about DVDs, the art of collecting, some of the sort of hidden Easter eggs that you may find in some DVDs, and just talk all things DVDs. So Daniel, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Jamie. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, doing well. How are you?
Yeah, good. It's a post-DVD world at the moment, but
it is. I mean, there is still an element, and we'll probably get onto this as we go, and there are still some federations and sort of companies that are doing sort of small amounts of home video, but we're going to really talk about WWE home video, really, and it's quite unique as well that obviously you are based in the UK, which is something I wasn't aware of. I thought you were obviously US based originally, but just give the listeners a bit of a background in yourself, your interest in DVDs, and how the website started up in the first place.
Yeah, I probably got into collecting the DVDs around about maybe 2003. I did have a little bit of like VHS collecting, not so much collecting, but just buying the odd one, getting the odd one for Christmas. And that probably started just as I got into wrestling, which was about the year 2000. So I think my first video was, WrestleMania 16 for Christmas. Must have been the year 2000.
Yeah.
I remember going back and getting like No Way Out 2000, which must have been the pay-per-view before WrestleMania. And like experiencing Hell in a Cell for the first time, like that sticks out in my mind. But like what I've really got into over the years was the DVDs, and that led to creating the website, which was called WWE DVD News at the start. Eventually became Wrestling DVD News, and then WrestlingDVDNetwork.com, which it is now. We tried to bring in elements of the WWE Network when that launched. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. It's been 14 years this month. So
wow,
big chunk of my life, to be honest.
And I mean, you're probably obviously the same age as me. I remember obviously my first pay-per-view I actually got on home video would have been around that WrestleMania 2000 time as well. Obviously getting in Woolworths, and that was kind of the place to go for us, really.
I think from memory, it might have been like an 18 certificate,
Yeah.
and I was probably like 12 or something. And I guess like my uncle was like, "Are you sure you want this? Sure you're allowed this?"
Yeah, it's fine.
Everyone knew like I was watching wrestling, so I just thought it was okay.
No, exactly. And I mean, in your own DVD collection now, so you started then and you've gone on to DVDs. Have you been sort of an avid collector and you sort of pick up everything that sort of came out obviously for the website? Or have you always just still pick and choose what you wanted to collect, really?
I think I was a bit of a pick and chooser. I was big into the Blu-rays, but I was also big into getting like overseas stuff that you couldn't get here. Just off the top of my head, like they did like a Hell in a Cell box set with like an Undertaker figurine and a Kane figurine in there. Like it was like a bust figurine. Stuff like that, and like even like ones that were released in Japan, and crazy ones like that. I quite liked having a little bit of difference in my collection. Even like the US had ones that the UK didn't, and vice versa. So yeah, I liked a little bit of everything with a bit of an international flavor now and again.
And I mean, with like the way things were, obviously with Silvervision really doing obviously wrestling videos for as far back as you can possibly remember, then doing DVDs, and then obviously the Fremantle taking over from there. I mean, would you say there was ever a shift into sort of the way things had been with Silvervision into Fremantle, or do you think it was pretty seamless and the quality never really kind of changed for UK sort of buyers and collectors?
I think there was a difference between the two, but I think maybe Fremantle were a little bit more like business minded, like
Mhm.
let's make a profit out of this and not go too far down what the fans want. But equally, I think they did do a few things for the fans, like keeping Blu-rays alive when Blu-rays weren't selling particularly great. I don't think like any supermarkets in the UK ever stocked a WWE Blu-ray except for
Mhm.
one, I think. So that was like in over 10 years that Fremantle had the license. But they kept it going. They kept Blu-rays going for, I think, pretty much every pay-per-view, and then it went to the big four. But yeah, stuff like that that fans probably don't realize that, you know, the Blu-rays weren't selling particularly great, but they were able to keep them going and still make a profit and keep them on the shelves. So yeah, there was a big difference between Silvervision and Fremantle, but for me, it was a good thing, I think, because we collaborated a lot for the website and got to know those guys really well. Went to wrestling shows with them. Must be like 10 years of wrestling shows for free because of Fremantle for me. So
Yeah.
I can't complain about that personally.
No, and I think likewise as well. I've always felt Fremantle as well. I've always been quite sort of all the Silvervision was. I've always have found that Fremantle have been quite good with fans with like contests and obviously review copies for people. They've always been pretty generous with that kind of thing. I always felt over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I think more people than ever were getting like review copies and blogs and podcasts and such. So yeah, I think they were pretty good to the fans.
And do you think there was ever a time, even in like a post W network world, do you ever think there was a time where the UK kind of dictated DVD release? Obviously, you mentioned Blu-rays and things like that, but do you think that was the same with compilation stuff? Like everything was really UK based now, especially with Blu-rays being region free as well.
I think Fremantle, they told me they gave WWE a lot of feedback over the years, and a lot of it was listened to, even like to the point of, you know, what a cover artwork design looks like. WWE would make the designs. There could be like five or six for every DVD, and there would ultimately be
Oh
a
wow.
choice between the six. And like Fremantle could give their opinions, and from what I've heard, like they were listened to quite well. As far as like what titles they do, maybe a little bit of the same. Like they'd give feedback on it, think about what sells well in the UK. So like if they know The Rock and the Attitude Era and that good stuff that I like sells pretty well in the UK, then obviously
Yeah.
that'll keep on happening.
And I mean, something like a compilation, do you know how that sort of would be put together? Like, would Fremantle reach out to WWE and say, we're thinking about putting a Rock DVD out, can we have 30 matches? Would then WWE come back to them, or would Fremantle kind of put together a wish list of matches they wanted to use? How would that process work?
Well, I wasn't involved in that process, but from what I've heard, it'd probably be the other way around. WWE would be like, we've got this Attitude Era Volume 2 coming out. These are the possible contenders of matches, and then Fremantle might have their own based on that topic. I don't know whether they had that in advance or they had that after the new title would be announced, but they could always share their feedback, I think, and propose what matches they would like on there. But ultimately, I think WWE and their team would put it together and make it all fit within a certain runtime and such. But later on, Fremantle did actually release their own stuff.
Hmm.
I think with like Cody Rhodes' DVD and SummerSlam '92, they probably had a big say on what extras were on there. But ultimately, WWE have to like approve it all and make sure that's available to put on a DVD. Fremantle can think about what they'd like on it, but ultimately WWE know what they've got in their archives, and there could be like certain footage that's like degraded over time and they can't use that
Of
anymore.
course,
So
yeah.
Yeah, it's a team effort by the sounds of it.
In regards to obviously the Facebook feed that you're sort of managing for them now, so you normally put up there sort of some really great sort of pictures of old artwork and things that weren't used. And I mean, just for the next few minutes, are you able to talk about any DVDs that you were made aware of that were planned to be released but were never released or made into something else?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is one that I was really looking forward to in like 2011. It was The Rock versus Steve Austin, the rivalry, and that would have
Mhm.
kicked off that series of rivalry DVDs. But they probably couldn't get The Rock at the time in 2011 to sit down with Stone Cold. I'm guessing he
Yeah,
did come
because
back for a match around that point, so I guess it could have been possible. But I guess with The Rock, time is money, and getting them in the same place could have been tricky, I guess.
yeah, I mean, we only ever really got that one, the Brett and Shawn one. We didn't really get any more of those rivalry series as well, did we? Really?
Yeah, it was actually scheduled, The Rock and Stone Cold, the DVD, but it was changed to that one you're talking about, Brett and Shawn, which was a great DVD. It was probably one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it
But
really is.
yeah, they never continued that. It was like a greatest rivalry series, but it was ultimately only that one, I think. I really like that format. And it was like pretty groundbreaking to get Shawn and Brett to chat in the same room, I thought, at the time.
Yeah. Well, I think as well, some of those things were quite trend setting as well. I know we had further on down, I had the more like the table was for three and the rivalry stuff on the network. But as a physical DVD that was nowhere else, first of all, that was a really big thing, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Felt like the documentaries on the network and stuff were a little bit condensed versions of the DVDs. So if you could get like a documentary on something that you were really into, and they did it for like 2 hours, a 2 hour plus documentary, like the Stone Cold one comes to mind, where it had like 4 disc set, and the documentary was over 2 hours, I believe.
Yeah.
Like you don't massively get that on the network. I think it was all like in 1 hour slots for a while on the network. So like the maximum you could probably get out of a doc was like, I don't know, 50 minutes or
Yeah.
up to an hour, something like that.
And in regards to sort of some other sort of stories around releases as well, I know like some of the artwork, even in itself, sort of change and things like that. I mean, is there any that really stick out your mind? You wonder why they made certain changes and things like that.
Yeah, the Owen Hart one comes to mind where they actually finalized the artwork, produced it, but then I heard that um, Vince himself like hated this artwork. I don't know why he sort of hated it at the final stage of production, but somehow it got to Vince that um, this was going to be the artwork, and he hated it because it didn't really have like an Owen picture of Owen on there. It did, but it was sort of like in the background. Apparently, he hated this, and he had all the copies that were made destroyed, and it never made it to stores. Ultimately, it did about 3 months after the release of a new artwork. Um, but yeah, apparently Vince was really big into like approving designs. Triple H as well, apparently. Um, so yeah, that sticks out in my mind. That one
Man,
changed completely, and it was a very last minute decision.
that's crazy, especially when something's so close to being released as well, you know?
Yeah, and it was actually produced because it did actually turn up in the end in stores.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
that
remember it
was
coming
like
out.
that. Yeah, it's a big story on our website at the time.
And you mentioned earlier on about obviously some of these sort of Attitude Era compilations and some of the other stuff like that. I mean, are you aware of obviously what was their biggest sellers in compilations and what ones thought they would do well and were kind of like the worst selling DVDs? What's the kind of spectrum that people seem to always lean towards?
I think with the sheer amount of like WCW, ECW, Attitude Era sets that they did, it probably is easy to think that those ones sold the best because it just makes sense, doesn't it? The amount of
Yeah.
sort of retreads of the Attitude Era that he did.
Yeah, there's also having obviously the one, two, and three, then having it in a box set, the one, two, three as well, didn't we?
Yeah. And then like variations on the theme because then you'd go like unreleased. So then get anything out that
Yeah.
sort of his attitude but has never been on like a video before. So yeah. I think like Brett's DVD sold really well. Obviously Stone Cold, anything that guy touches sells really well. But I think it's those pillars, WCW, ECW Attitude Era. They stand out to me as the big sellers. Other than WrestleMania, WrestleMania was another one every year.
Yeah.
That's a bit different, isn't it? You're just putting a pay-per-view onto a DVD.
I think there's always going to be interest no matter what I know even like the ones I've bought over the last few years, there are always those interesting compilations I think that people always sort of want to stick on. It's easier to find than trying to navigate the network. You know, if you just want to binge watch Attitude Era, you can easily find the best moments on a compilation. Whereas a network isn't very intuitive with trying to do that sort of stuff for you, And I think that's always a plus for home video.
Yeah, it's almost with the network. I don't know if it's the same for you, but you're sort of overwhelmed with the choice and you don't know where to start. Yeah, I always thought that I'd watch like every Attitude Era, like Raw and SmackDown in order, and go through it, but I just never seem to get around to it because where do you start?
Exactly.
Like, I'd probably start where I started watching wrestling, but then should probably start in like 97, something like that for the Attitude Era.
Yeah. And I think I'm exactly the same. I've always tried and maybe pick out. I think I'll watch a Raw from April 2000, and I really enjoy watching that single Raw. But I mean, it's still only sort of a tiny capsule of what is actually available. And I think having it within a DVD just makes it a lot easier, and especially with some of the sort of the territory DVDs that sort of came out over the few years, and having those Blu-rays with all the extras. Like, if I wanted to go through Mid-South, there's no real easy way of getting a whole picture of Mid-South other than the Blu-ray releases, is it really, It's
also probably quite lucky that those ones like AWA or Mid-South, etc., that were put on DVD, because I don't think they were like amongst the best sellers. So ones like that, if there's an opportunity to still pick them up, such as on eBay and stuff, people should probably jump on that. Like the Blu-rays especially are becoming quite hard to find, some of them.
And say about obviously some of the hard ones to find. I mean, were there any that were particularly, printed in low numbers? I know there was obviously in the Silvervision days some of these sort of TLC type ones where, people are still clamoring and paying a lot of money for some of these early DVDs. I mean, are there any that come to mind that you think, people need to look out for, or ones that people need to hold on to if they're sort of harder to find?
I think the WrestleMania ones on Blu-ray, like they mustn't have been producing as many numbers, or just like non-WrestleMania pay-per-views. They were probably producing a certain amount to cater for the hardcore fans that still want Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably recommend, if you see Blu-rays of any sort and you're particularly interested in that topic, to grab those. I always liked the original WWF DVDs that weren't around for long, because they started in like late 99, or maybe like mid 99, and then they had to be like taken off shelves in like, I think 2002. Those were always my favorite, because I just realized at some point that you could go back and buy a DVD of all the events you grew up on. Like, for example, King of the Ring 2000 or WrestleMania 17 was always my favorite DVD. Probably still is.
And this is the thing as well. Like, there was a time period where that was the only DVD you could get, but then Silvervision done something really, really incredible. And the way it happened was obviously the Tag Classics suddenly appeared, and they were unedited. They had all the original WF. There was no blurring, because any other DVDs that you got from WWE and WF at the time were obviously all blurred out. And having something that was completely untouched was a real revolutionary thing. And Tag Classics was a really successful line, wasn't it, for Fremantle and Silvervision?
Yeah, I think that's probably one big reason why Silvervision are really well remembered, because they managed to like pull that off. I think it was coming out of a lawsuit that maybe THQ had on the go at the time, the video game developer.
Mm-hmm.
I reading between the lines and stuff, I don't fully know the story, but they were trying to make it so they could sell the WWF games still, because they'd been pulled from sale. Yeah, after the World Wildlife Fund sued what is now WWE.
Yeah.
So the DVD had to go away, but Silvervision found a way to get, as long as they released them exactly as they were before, other than the cover art, they could put them back on DVD. So they gradually went through the whole catalog.
The whole catalog, didn't they? And in there we had, even the smaller video releases, we had like 4 like Mick Foley, China, Jericho, all on like a double disc. And that was a revolution for many Attitude Era fans to have like cleaned up to some degree, but on DVD, rather than having your grainy
Yeah.
videos. And it was a really successful line.
Yeah, that stands out for me as one of the best things they did, because those are all like massively popular events. A lot of Attitude Era stuff or earlier days than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those were good times.
Just, I don't know how much you're aware, and obviously within your website, you've got such an archive of information there. And we'll talk about the website in some more detail in a moment. But something I wanted to ask you, and whether you're sort of know much about this, obviously some of the DVDs in the early days had lots of alternate commentaries on them. So, for example, Mick Foley DVD may have Joey Styles and Mick Foley talking about a match. And those don't obviously exist within the network. Do you think there's a real niche in people having those DVDs just for those commentary tracks alone? And do you think we'll see them ever appearing anywhere else?
Well, all of this footage and all of what was captured exists somewhere in the archive, so it could surface again, but it just feels unlikely, doesn't it, that they resurface like a Mick Foley and Joey Styles alternative commentary. But yeah, it's definitely a plus point, as well as what you said, like having a compilation of everything great in one place. Yeah, it's just that a lot of people don't own a DVD player anymore.
No.
They've never owned a Blu-ray player.
No.
But for me, like, I've not loaded up like a Blu-ray for quite some time, but I do want to again, because there are a few things, like I've just got Wrestling with Shadows on Blu-ray not long ago.
Oh, nice.
I want to fire that up at some point. But yeah, I'd have to dust off a player again, because I don't like use a games console anymore and stuff like that. So I'll have to find a way. It's just whether others would be up for that. Some people have probably moved on. How about yourself? Do you have a DVD player at hand that you can use?
No, so this is the thing. I don't have a physical DVD, but I still do have a games console. So, like with the DVDs that I've bought over the last few years, there've been ones I think I'll pick those up. I'll get that. That looks really interesting. But I've never, to my horror, I've never sat down and even watched the ones I've bought. I've grabbed them at the time, thinking, "Oh, I'll sit down and do that." But like the Mid South one is a prime one. 4 or 5 hours worth of Mid South. You think, I really want to learn a bit more and watch some of these matches, and I just haven't had the time to sit down and do it. But I would like to have more Blu-rays, and I think now we're getting to an age where we've obviously got the network at the moment where we have got that archive, but we're potentially going to be losing that. As of next year, we may be obviously moving through to Netflix, and we've held on to it in a post-Peacock era. So I think I'm more and more acutely aware of wanting to try and get home videos again and try and pick up some of these Blu-rays. And I wonder if there's going to be quite a few people who maybe did sort of dabble in collecting and haven't. Maybe there may be a big boom in the secondary market. I guess people may try and discover these again, really.
Yeah, there'll probably be some regrets on selling collections and stuff. I mean, my collection is not fully up to date anymore because I sort of fell out of it a little bit. But I'd certainly want to buy back Blu-rays and things that I've lost over the years. And probably people will rediscover their DVD players, I think, to get these going again.
So you mentioned your collection there. So I mean, what have you got in regards to a collection? Have you got a pretty deep library of pay-per-views or just compilations, or what kind of things have you always gone for? Have you just grabbed everything you could because of the website, I guess?
Yeah, a lot of, like I said, exclusive, overseas stuff. I loved the box sets. There's a Vince McMahon anthology, the WrestleMania anthology signed by Vince. I held on to that one.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
He's a little bit of a controversial character now, Vince, but still, I'd quite like to keep hold of that one. Yeah, but I've got probably all the Blu-rays. I don't really want to part with those. I've got a side collection going on of all the US original release, the original WWF DVDs.
Nice.
I wanted to sort of get them in their original US release form as well as the UK ones, which is crazy, but it's pure collector, and OCD wanting everything. So yeah, with those particular ones, because those are the ones I grew up with, I think.
And those, you mentioned those special ones. You mentioned earlier on about the Kane and Undertaker, the Hell in a Cell with a little mini bust, and the Vince McMahon signed sort of WrestleMania box sets. I mean, they're not Easter eggs as such, but what other kind of sort of special DVDs have you come across? I know Target in the US kind of done some sort of mini bios, didn't they, for different superstars that came with a T-shirt and things like that.
A lot of it was taking the standard DVD and bundling a beanie hat or something, but there were a couple actually within like a certain time frame where they did like put extra matches on the DVD. Like the DVD would get exclusive matches, the Blu-ray would get exclusive matches as well. So it's sort of like WWE were getting you to buy both versions if you were that much of a hardcore collector. There's a few like that, but that was quite rare. There's also like steelbooks. I think
Yeah.
certain titles in about, I don't know, 2013, just off the top of my head. Like you could get steelbook Blu-rays for a while. Just like short-lived lines like that are pretty cool to hang on to. The Dudley Boys had like a steelbook Blu-ray. Eric Bischoff's one, and Scott Hall.
I know like a lot of on the trading card side of things as well. We had a period where Tops were obviously putting a promo trading card within some of their DVD releases. And even to that point, they even had like autograph cards that people could only find within the Blu-rays or DVDs. And they're becoming harder and harder to come by, where people haven't obviously realized they're there, or a steelbook was only available in Blockbuster or Best Buy. And obviously they've dried up, or people don't realize what they've got. And I know there's sort of some real rarities that people can find for store unique steelbooks and stuff.
Yeah, that reminds me that in the US they were doing the monthly pay-per-view releases on DVD, and they were putting like a Topps trading card in each of those. And there was a certain amount, very small amount of like gold cards that were signed
Yeah.
by whoever the superstar was on the card. So those must be really rare because I've never had one of them. I've seen a few pictures, and yeah, those hardly ever surfaced. And as far as like
No.
the readers of my website often sending me emails and stuff, but really, I can only remember maybe like 2 times someone got hold of them. As far as people who emailed me, so those must be pretty rare.
Yeah, I know in myself, like I'm collecting the card side of things. There's between 2007 and 2008, they done a set of like oversized cards for WrestleMania moments, and they only appeared in blockbuster releases from SummerSlam through to I think the following WrestleMania, so like that 6 month period. But again, they don't crop up hardly at all because it was such a blockbuster release as such that you can't find them anywhere. And that specific thing that says find trading cards inside this box, you just can't find it on eBay. And I'm sure there's a lot of collectors who sort of are diehards like that, must really struggle to find these things, you know.
Sounds like there's some crossover between like what the DVDs were doing and what the trading cards were doing. Because Blockbuster, I think for a while they had like bonus discs with the pay-per-views and stuff.
Yeah, they did.
So
That's right. Yeah.
I think some of those must be really hard to find because I think you weren't technically meant to have them. They were just like rentals. So if you own them, that must be pretty rare at this point.
So let's talk about your website in a bit more detail then. So you mentioned earlier on you've been running it for 14 years and you built up quite an archive, and you said not just like WWE releases, but you've gone through obviously now with AEW and obviously TNA and things like that. So just give your website a good plug and give people an idea of what they can find on the website if they want to find anything wrestling DVD related on there.
Yeah, I think as you say, now it's a great archive of not only sort of a list of every WWE DVD they ever did, but also like the content listings of everything that were on those DVDs. We went back because we started it in 2010, but we've also gone back to the beginning, and we've got all the content written out for every sort of compilation, every documentary set since they started in '99. We haven't done the VHSs or anything because the topic was always DVD, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of content that people can search Google, and we're normally at the top. And you can jump on our site to see what's on DVDs because you're not really going to know what's on a DVD before buying it any other way, I don't think. That's probably how we got quite popular, because we were able to say what was on a DVD in advance of it being released. And WWE weren't particularly open to saying what was on DVDs in
No.
detail. They'd have a trailer. At the most, they'd show the trailer on Raw, for example. But they wouldn't really announce what was on there. Television were pretty good at that, to be fair. They used social media really well in the early days, like round about when we were starting the website, 2009, 10. So yeah, our website's a good archive of all the news stories that were happening in that time frame as well. It's not just content. And we're still keeping it going, obviously, like you say, with AEW, and we've got a TNA list TNA Impact list as well. We've still got some network features. We've got a page where if the network updates with new content, we've got a sort of archive of what's being added. That will soon stop when they move to Netflix, but we might be able to rework it a little bit to work with Netflix, hopefully.
Nice. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else.
Well, I'll tell you what, always used to use the website for more than anything, even going back in time, was obviously the Easter eggs on DVDs and where people say, press up, down, right on the menu to get these hidden sort of promos. And your website was the only place you could find all those. And to find them in the first place must have been, a real hard sort of battle to try and do that,
Yeah, that was a good collaborative effort with Vision and readers of the website and just trying it out ourselves. And I think between like that and forums around the web, we're just bringing everything together in one place with that page. But yeah, that's pretty handy. And that's all like undocumented stuff that wouldn't be in the normal like content listing of a DVD. So that's pretty cool. That's the extra stuff you didn't really know you had in your collection.
And just to finish up, obviously the interview really more than anything. So obviously the Facebook feed, you're now looking after the WWE Home Video feed. It's now changed over to WWE Home Video Tribute feed, but just give the listeners an idea of what people can expect from there. Are you taking sort of content from the website and sort of republishing it? Are you getting people's feedback and sort of memories? Just give some feedback what you're planning on doing with the Facebook feed now.
Yeah, it was just an idea to keep that going. And yeah, behind the scenes, it is me doing those posts because I can't move on from this topic. I love it. But yeah, rather than let it just die out, let's like celebrate the memories of it all and the history and people's collections. Give away some stuff on there as well. I think it does like repost some of the things on the website. That's part of the plan. Like get people to see some of the old stuff that they probably can't see without like searching the website, and just look at historic milestones in the history of WWE home video. And yeah, otherwise it would just be collecting dust. So it's good to keep it going. And we can also dream that things come back, like on there, but like let's all like get together and make a WrestleMania 40 DVD happen. Shared a petition that someone made on there. So yeah, the fans still want it back. Unfortunately, it looks like it can't come back.
No, I mean, I guess it all comes down to as well. We obviously know AEW have done All In fairly recently, and by everyone's surprise, that was completely unedited. Had all the music tracks on there from the night and everything. So, that's something that you may not get on any other network series. So it's quite a good thing if we can still push or even get that single release once a year. There must be someone who can do that somewhere. But I'll definitely recommend anyone who hasn't seen the Facebook feed to check it out, because there's been pictures up the last few weeks around the Rock DVD, the Sting DVD, and just sharing some really cool stories, Daniel. So really good work you're still doing there, and hoping your own website obviously keeps going as well.
Yeah, the website still does pretty well as far as like people finding. Say if you type Stone Cold DVD match listing, you're gonna find us. And yeah, I've been going back and editing some of those posts just to make them look a bit more presentable. And yeah, some of them are really old, so didn't put as much sort of effort into the posts at the time. So good to like tidy them up and just make it as accessible to everyone as possible. And on the home video feed, which is WWE Home Video UK on both Facebook and X or Twitter. Yeah, that's me on there. And yeah, I'm just trying to keep the topic alive while we still can.
No, it's great. I said I'll share all the links on our Facebook feeds as well and mention it on the show next week. But it's been great talking to you, Daniel. And it'd be nice to maybe have you come on somewhere down the line and we'll talk specifically around a certain topic and stuff like that if you're happy to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for having me, Jamie. And I'd look forward to it.